You know, usually when we talk about regime collapse or even just regime stress, we look at the streets.
Right, the protests.
Yeah, the burning tires, the riot police, that's the visible friction. But the source stack we're looking at today is pointing at something much quieter and honestly maybe more fatal for the Iranian government. It's happening inside the embassies.
It's the sound of the people who know the most running for the exits.
That's it, exactly. We are looking at a sudden, high-profile cluster of Iranian diplomatic defections happening right now, January, February 2026. And look, we aren't talking about low-level clerks here.
No, not at all.
We're talking about the people in the tuxedos, the faces of the regime in places like Vienna and Geneva.
The ones who are supposed to be holding the line.
Right. And to understand this, we've pulled together some really great sources. We've got investigative reports from Iran International, some coverage from the Jerusalem Post, and historical records from 2010 to give us some context.
And the report from the Swiss public broadcaster, SRF.
Oh, that SRF report
Yeah.
it's frankly terrifying.
Yeah, that one adds a layer of, I don't know, a noir thriller to this that I just wasn't expecting.
It really does. So the mission for this deep dive is to figure out, are these just a few guys deciding they like Swiss chocolate? Or are we looking at the specific cracks in the hull that signal the whole ship is sinking?
A life or death gamble.
It really is. We're going to unpack this Revolution 2026, the deadly risks of defecting, and yeah, that very bizarre subplot involving Swiss diplomats dying in Tehran.
Which is an irony we absolutely have to get to. But maybe let's start with the who. Because the names and titles, they really matter here.
They do. So just in the last few weeks, we have two major defections. First up, Gholamreza Derikvand. He was the chargé d'affaires in Vienna. Now, I know that sounds like a fancy French appetizer, but that's a big deal, right?
It's a huge deal. It means he's the acting head of mission, the boss when the ambassador isn't there.
Yeah.
And Vienna is a critical post for Iran. The IAEA, the nuclear watchdog, is based there.
So he's not a rookie.
Far from it. He's a career diplomat. Served in the Czech Republic before this. This is a guy who was on the fast track to a full ambassadorship. He spent decades climbing the ladder, only to jump off right at the top.
And he abandoned his post to seek asylum in Switzerland. But he wasn't the only one. We also have Alireza Hokhmabad.
Oh, yeah.
And this one feels even heavier to me because of where he was stationed.
The UN headquarters in Geneva.
The big leagues.
I mean, it is the hub of global diplomacy. Hokhmabad was a minister counselor. For anyone not in that bubble, that's a very senior diplomat, essentially the deputy head of the mission.
And what was he handling?
Economic diplomacy, trade, investment. I mean, he was the guy trying to keep the economic lifelines open for the regime. When a guy like that, someone who knows exactly how the money moves, decides to defect.
It's a massive blow.
Massive intelligence blow. And he took his family with him.
Right. And that's a crucial detail.
A very crucial detail.
What strikes me looking at the Iran international reporting is the reaction from Tehran, or really the lack of one.
Total silence.
The foreign ministry has been completely silent. Why?
It's the silence of panic. The sources inside the ministry are saying colleagues are terrified to even whisper about it.
Because the intelligence agencies are listening.
Exactly. Normally you denounce them, call them the traitor, hold a press conference.
Yeah.
But here, nothing. Yeah. Acknowledging it means acknowledging the crisis.
It signals that the whole structure is failing.
Right. These are the people paid to defend the system to the world. They're the ones who stand up at the UN and say, everything is fine. When your salesmen stop believing in the product, you know the company is in real trouble.
So let's look at why they're running. The sources keep mentioning Revolution 2026. We've seen protests in Iran before, 2009, 2022. What makes this different?
It's the death. It's the sheer scale of the violence. The numbers are just staggering.
I saw this huge discrepancy in the reports. Official Iranian state media is admitting to, over 3,000 deaths?
Which, on its own, is a horrifying number for a police action.
But the opposition sources, the reports coming into Iran International, they're claiming something totally different.
They're putting the number at over 36,500 deaths.
Wait, hold on. 36,000?
Yes.
That's not a crackdown. That's a civil war. It's a whole stadium full of people.
It's incredibly difficult to verify, obviously, which is why there's that gap. But even if you just take the official numbers, the level of bloodshed is unprecedented.
And that's where the moral pressure comes in for these diplomats.
You have to imagine it. You're Hokhmabad in Geneva. You're sitting in this nice office trying to negotiate sanctions relief while your government is being accused of massacring tens of thousands of its own citizens.
The cognitive dissonance must be crushing. You can't spin a massacre of that size.
You really can't. And the international community, they stopped listening anyway. Look at the response. Australia just sanctioned 20 top officials.
Including the national police chief.
Police chief, intelligence minister.
Yeah.
They've designated the IRGC as a state sponsor of terrorism. And the EU did the same thing in late January.
So these diplomats, they're basically becoming pariahs.
That's the word. They're walking into diplomatic receptions, and people are literally turning their backs. The job has become impossible.
But, let's play devil's advocate for a second. People have terrible jobs all the time.
Sure.
They quit. They don't. They don't usually flee across a border and burn their entire life down. The cost of this has to be immense.
Oh, it's a life or death gamble. And I'm not being dramatic. The sources are crystal clear. These diplomats fear execution if they go back.
And it's not just about staying out of Iran, is it? Even in Europe, they're not safe.
Not at all. This is where we have to talk about Unit 840.
I saw that in the Jerusalem Post coverage. What is that?
So within the IRGC's Quads Force, their external operations wing, they have Unit 840. And their specific job, according to Western intelligence, is to target dissidents abroad. They are the regime's hit squad.
So the moment you defect, you go from being an asset to being a target.
Immediately. And it's not just you. This is the really cruel part. The regime operates on a kind of mafia logic. They use your family as leverage.
Right. They go after who you left behind.
That's why you see Hakabad taking his whole family. They know their relatives back in Tehran could be arrested, or worse, just to punish them.
And then there's the financial ruin. These are elite guys.
They have the pensions, the drivers, the diplomatic status. They lose it all. Overnight, you go from your excellency at the UN to an asylum seeker in a refugee center.
So the fear of staying has to be greater than the fear of losing everything.
That's the only conclusion you can draw.
It's interesting to compare this to 2010 during the Green Movement. There were defections then, too.
There were, yeah. Mohammad-Reza Haidari in Oslo comes to mind. He even started a Green Embassy campaign to try and get others to join him.
So what's different now?
Two things. First, the scale of the violence. In 2009, the death toll was in the hundreds. Shocking, but not 36,000.
Right.
The desperation is just on another level.
And the second thing,
The rank and the location. Hitting the UN mission in Geneva. That's a direct attack on the regime's legitimacy on the world stage. It's the regime losing his voice at the main table.
okay, we have to pivot to this Swiss connection. It's the part of this that it feels like a spy novel. Both of these guys ran to Switzerland.
Well, on the surface, it makes sense. Switzerland represents U.S. interests in Tehran, since there's no U.S. embassy. It's the neutral ground, the go-between.
Right, the safest place to signal you want to talk to the West.
That's the idea.
But, and this is a massive but, while Iranian diplomats are running to Switzerland for safety, Swiss diplomats in Tehran seem to be in extreme danger.
It's a terrifying irony. That SRF report details a series of, let's call them mysterious deaths of Swiss representatives that are just deeply suspicious.
Why? What's the paranoia about?
The IRGC sees the Swiss embassy as a point of penetration, basically a CIA outpost, and they're acting on that paranoia.
I was reading about Sylvie Brunner. She was the deputy ambassador.
This was in 2021. She fell from a 17th floor balcony. The Iranian authorities immediately ruled it a suicide. Case closed.
But the Swiss investigation found some really disturbing stuff.
Disturbing is an understatement. First, reports of Iranian intelligence boot prints in her apartment. But the truly chilling part is what happened to her body. When it was returned to Switzerland for a second autopsy, key organs were missing.
Her heart and her brain.
Oh, gone.
That's not suspicious. That's forensic obstruction. You can't determine the cause of death if she was poisoned or drugged if the vital organs are gone.
Exactly. It makes a conclusive autopsy impossible. It sends a message, we control the narrative, even of your death.
And she wasn't the only one.
No. In 2023, the Swiss military attaché collapsed from a mysterious illness, died back in Switzerland. It later came out he was likely an intelligence operative. And then just this year, 2026, a Swiss tourist.
The guy taking soil samples.
Right. A 60-year-old tourist. They accused him of spying. He died in prison 2 months later. Again, the official cause was suicide.
It paints this picture of just extreme paranoia. They're lashing out.
And you have this bizarre dynamic. Iranian diplomats are fleeing to Switzerland because it's safe, while Swiss diplomats in Iran are being treated like enemy combatants. The old rules are just breaking down.
So if they're willing to touch Swiss diplomats who should have international protection, then an Iranian defector really has nowhere to hide.
That is the chilling realization, isn't it? The safety they're running toward might be an illusion.
So with all this chaos, diplomats fleeing, bodies piling up, how is the regime even trying to hold this together? They have to be spinning this somehow.
Oh, absolutely. They're fighting a huge propaganda war.
Yeah.
And we know exactly how because of a leaked memo from the Tasnim news agency.
Which is basically the media arm of the IRGC.
Exactly. The memo is all about Prince Reza Pahlavi.
The son of the exiled Shah.
Right. The regime is terrified. The protesters will rally around him as a leader. So this memo is a playbook for state media. It tells them frame the protests as foreign-driven and paint Pahlavi not as a leader but as a Western puppet.
They're trying to sever the head from the body of the movement.
That's the strategy. Keep the anger in the streets leaderless and chaotic. But the irony. I just can't get past the irony.
What's that?
They're writing these memos, projecting strength, claiming total control, while the very people whose job it is to deliver that narrative in Vienna and Geneva are packing their bags and running for their lives.
It's like the captain of the Titanic shouting full speed ahead while the bridge crew is secretly lowering the lifeboats.
That is the perfect analogy. The propaganda says, we are strong. The personnel moves say, we are finished.
So let's bring this all back for the listener. What does this diplomatic exodus actually tell us about the future of Iran in 2026?
It tells us the regime is fighting a war on two fronts. Internally, against its own people, with casualty numbers that suggest a total loss of control. And externally, they're hemorrhaging their own elite.
And that second part, that seems to be the key, doesn't it? Revolutions often happen when the elite starts to fracture.
Historically, yes. When the intelligence inside the system starts betting against the system, that's a huge indicator. These diplomats see the classified reports. They know the real state of the economy. They know how unstable the leadership is.
So when they decide that the risk of being hunted by Unit 840 is less than the risk of staying on the ship,
it tells you the ship is going down, and it's going down fast.
they are effectively shorting the stock of the Islamic Republic, but with their own lives.
That is exactly what they're doing.
But I want to leave our listener with that thought about the Swiss connection, because it's just haunting.
It should be.
If the regime is brazen enough to touch Swiss officials, who should be untouchable, it raises a question for these defectors. Can you ever really be safe?
Or maybe the question is something else. Maybe these defectors know something we don't.
What do you mean?
Maybe they're not just running to hide forever. Maybe they believe the regime won't be around long enough to hunt them down.
Now that is a provocative thought. They're not just defecting, they're betting against the clock.
High-stakes poker.
Well, we will certainly be watching to see who folds next. That's all for this deep dive into the diplomatic exodus of 2026. Thanks for helping us unpack this.
My pleasure. Stay curious.